مسئولیت میره که اینا میخوایم قبول کنیم چون ما هم آگاهی نرسیده. اگر واقعا مردم در افغانستان به این آگاهی میرسیدن که ماهیت آزادی رو باید میکردن در امروز طالب در داخل قلمرو افغانستان نمیبود چون بانده شده بود به هیچ گاه نباید میامد ولی بدبختانه به یک نوعی ما افکار متناسب با افکار طالبانی داریم بخصوص مردم var.
Tedbirleri alındığını da açıkladı. Uluslararası Olimpiyat Komitesi Beijing Kış Olimpiyat Oyunları Koordinasyon Komisyonu Başkanı Antonio
لدينا دعاء ولكن لم يستجاب لنا. نحن في بلدنا وعلينا أن نظهرها في أحسن صورة ولكننا مع الأسف لا نعرف لماذا تغير هذه الأجهزة التي
فئة تصميم الأزياء في مسابقة جوائز المرأة العربية في المملكة العربية السعودية لعام 2015 وفي نفس العام حصلت إحدى مجموعاتها التي أضفت خلالها لمسة من العصرية للثوب السعودي التقليدي على الإشادة النقدية في مجلة Bestestimes العربية. وذلك أطلقت مصممة الأزياء السعودية ريم الكمهر مجموعة إحياء أرادت من خلالها إعادة تصميم جميع القطع الأساسية من مجموعاتها السابقة التي ترى بأنها لم تأخذ حظها في الاهتمام. تقول ريم الكمهر إنها فخورة بما تشهده المنطقة السعودية اليوم من تطور غير مسبوق في صناعة الموضة وعروض الأزياء بقيادة فتيات سعودية، وأشارت إلى آمالها بتصميم قطع خالدة من خلال دمج العناصر الحديثة والتقليدية. انتهت فقرتنا هذه فقرة صور شخصية. فاصل وتعود إليكم الزميلة دعاء مجدي لتقديم الفقرة القادمة من برنامج المجتمع والحياة. ابقوا معنا.
Beijing Olympics and participants of the 2008 Summer Games. Now time for the headline news. U.S. President Joe Biden Thursday announced the leader of the violent Islamic State group was killed by U.S. forces during an overnight raid in Syria's northwestern province. The raid targeted Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, who took over as the head of the militant group on October 31, 2019, just days after leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died during a U.S. raid in the same area. U.S. officials said al-Qurayshi died as al-Baghdadi did by exploding a bomb that killed himself and members of his family, including women and children, as U.S. forces approached. Footage by the Associated Press showed the aftermath of the raid, top floor of the house being almost destroyed in Thursday's raid, with the ceiling and walls knocked out. Blood could be seen on the walls and floor of the remaining structure, bedroom with a child wooden crib on the floor. First responders reported that 13 people had been killed, including 6 children and 4 women. The operation came as ISIS had been trying for a resurgence with a series of attacks in the region, including a 10-day assault late last month to seize a prison. Witnesses say U.S. Special Forces landed in helicopters and assaulted a house in a rebel-held corner of Syria. U.S. President Biden said in a statement that he ordered the raid to protect the American people and its allies and make the world safe. In other U.S.-related news, U.S. White House officials say Washington has 560,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine to Ghana, which will be distributed through COVAX, a global initiative to ensure equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. Ghanaian health experts welcome the U.S. donations, but question whether the world's richest nation is doing enough to help West African nations fight the global pandemic. The World Organization reports Ghana has nearly 150,000 cases of the virus and 1,395 deaths. With a population of over 31 million, World Health Organization says 9.7 million vaccine doses have been administered in the West African nation. Ghana appears to have recently emerged from a 4th wave of infections. The last wave, which peaked in January, prompted the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to issue a level 3 travel health notice. The United Nations is urging Myanmar's military authorities to allow delivery of humanitarian aid to millions of people suffering from conflict, poverty, acute hunger, and ill health. 1 year after the military coup toppled the democratically elected government, UN officials warn the country is moving toward a UN officials report the growing crisis has plunged an estimated 14.4 million people into destitution. In response, the UN has appealed for a record $826 million to provide relief for 6.2 million people. You're listening to VOA's International Edition. I'm Mike Overett, broadcasting from Washington, D.C. Everyone marked Voice of America's 80th anniversary as an international media outlet. Media experts report VOA reaches nearly 100 countries in 47 languages via television, radio, and digital media, with a global audience of some 278 million people. However, VOA management say there's still room to grow. In part 3 of the series discussion with VOA senior analyst Mohammed El-Shnawi about the impact of VOA that started Tuesday, El-Shnawi told my colleague Carol Van Dam that he believes VOA's global reach will continue increasing with the inclusion of social media into strategies of reaching more people.
When it comes to news analysis, VOA gave me the opportunity to use my Middle East expertise as contributor.
اتركها حتى تغلي، وعند الغليان نقوم بتقليل درجة النار إلى المتوسطة، ونتركها إلى أن تطهى رقائق العجين المشوه بالكامل. عندها نخفض النار إلى درجة هادئة، ونضيف البصل الأخضر المفروم وزيت السمسم والخل، ونتركها تغلي معا لمدة دقيقتين لتصبح شوربة وانتا جاهزة. بهذا أعزائي المستمعين نكون قد وصلنا إلى ختام فترة جولة من الواقع، وأيضا ختام حلقتنا من برنامجكم المجتمع والحياة، والذي جاءكم عبر أثير إذاعة الصين الدولية. ونعرف في التقديم حسن الشاذلي
ودعاء نجم.
مع تحيات فريق العمل،
إعداد
نرمين محمد
ودعاء
وكان داندان،
رئيس تحرير
آية حسين،
هندسة الصوت
علي المرجاوي،
إخراج
حسين إبراهيم.
المجتمع والحياة في الواقع،
قمر
وصور مشرفة.
المجتمع والحياة،
نبض المجتمع العربي والسني.
Of course, being horrified at the idea that nowadays they would just be on TikTok or Snapchat, while the mum and dad would be on Facebook. So there's been this problem for some time, and what we're really seeing now is the effect of that as younger people get slightly older, but they're still on TikTok and other platforms and not spending time on Facebook.
So is this about us falling out of love with social media, or is it just that other platforms are coming up and hurting Facebook and Instagram, like you mentioned TikTok?
I think it's difficult to say if we're falling out of love with social media. I think that people are being a bit more discriminating about which ones they spend their time on. So I think that Twitter and Facebook have both had some backlash in the past year or so for people realizing from things like the whistleblower Francis Horgan about the toxic effects that Facebook can have. And, in America, they saw the toxic effects with the insurrection on January the 6th of last year. So people are starting to realize that these are not entirely neutral platforms, that the algorithms they use, trying to get people to use them more, actually inflame people. They amplify the outrage. And after a while, I think people get weary of that.
Of course, a lot has been staked on the metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg did a big reveal on a few months back. And all based around virtual reality and that sort of thing. But it's a very long way down the track. So in the meantime, does that mean that Meta's going to be on the wane?
Certainly they're projecting lower revenues for the next quarter, and a lot of people made a big play of the fact that Facebook's stock in the US has fallen by about 20%, wiped billions off Mark Zuckerberg's notional value. Though I suspect that will start to come back up, and in a few months' time it'll look much like it did. The question is whether the metaverse is something that's going to make as much money. And I did actually speak to a former Facebook employee, Katie Harbat, who used to be in charge of the global policy, trying basically to stop interference in elections. She left the company last year after the insurrection because she was just so disappointed in Facebook's effective lack of action there. And she felt that Facebook was sort of moving on to this shiny new thing of the metaverse without clearing up the problems that it had caused with the social network. So I think that it could get caught between the two, trying to sort of change horses midstream, so to speak, and trying to sort of leave this big social network just chugging over while trying to get onto the shiny new metaverse thing. And I'm not entirely persuaded that the metaverse will be as money-making as they might hope.
Thank you very much. Charles Arthur there, technology journalist and author of Social Warming. It is 8:30.
Time for a quick market update with Giles Beckford. He can probably tell us what's happening with Facebook and the impact on the markets.
Thank you, Corin. Yes, US and European stocks are lower. European stocks 1 to 2% down. The Bank of England raised its benchmark interest rate. The European Central Bank held rates steady, but did hint that possible rate rises were coming this year. And as we've just been hearing, US stocks are down largely because of the fallout from the plunge in Meta's share price. Revenues hurt, outlook weaker. We can say that the value of the fall, about 25%, I think it's about 23% at the moment, but down, that's close to 300 billion New Zealand dollars wiped off the value of Meta, and that is just about the value of the New Zealand economy. The market's also waiting for payrolls numbers that will be coming out overnight. So at the moment, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is just under 1% down. The S&P 500, 1.8% lower. The NASDAQ, the fallout from Meta hitting other tech stocks, 2.8% down. Our own top 50 index has had 4 solid days of gains. It was up 46 points yesterday. It may not have such a cheery performance today. New Zealand dollar 66.7 US cents, 93.3 Australian, 49 British pence, 0.582 euro, 76.6 Japanese yen, and 0.24 yuan. French dollar up $1 at $90.95 US a barrel, and gold is just a touch lower, $1,804 an ounce. We'll bring you all the latest business news and the latest market information in Midday Report around 20 past.
Giles, thank you. Hi, Akine. Still to come before 9 o'clock on Morning Report. Hawke's Bay leaders may take the transport agency to court after they dropped State Highway 5 speed limit.
It is a great concern to our region that this section of State Highway 5 continues to be undervalued.
More on a Pacifica will raise money for Tonga tonight in their Chiefs and Friday, so we'll be crossing the bit to carry on roll. Kia tātou wā mo te kawe tōrongo na the headlines. The National Party's COVID-19 spokesperson says the border will do little to help ailing tourism if the isolation requirements don't change. From February the 28th, vaccinated New Zealanders coming back from Australia will be able to get MI2 and self-isolate.
حسابات خاصة بالسلطة المحلية. عندما هناك نقطتين لماذا هذه الإيرادات، وأيضا عندما يتحدث الأموال بتجنيدها خاصة ما المقصود الحسابات الخاصة بالسلطة المحلية؟
معنا في الكريم، أولا هذه أنت تعرف أن حضرموت يمكن محافظة وحدتين إداريتين داخل الوحدة. هل فهمت؟
نعم.
هناك إدارة أو إدارات عامة ومكاتب وزارات في الوادي، وهناك مكاتب وزارات أخرى داخل حضرموت. والمقصود بهذه المبالغ التي لم تورد هو
منسجمة غير
مستقلة أقل طريق، مستقلة ماليا تماما، إيرادات
هي منسجمة مع الحكومة أم أنها تختلف؟
لا، اسمح لي، نحن طبعا لا يمكن نعمل من غير حكومة. السابقة في بداية الأزمات كنا نعمل في معزل
with Nigeria has been telling John that Senegal seems to be peaking at just the right time.
Et ses capacités de gestion organisationnelle assimilées dans la pratique à long terme.
Acesta conține vitamine bogate, aminoacizi, zahăr solubil, alcaloizi, proteine, grăsimi, și calciu, fosfat, potasiu și alte oligoelemente. Dintre acestea, proteinele reprezintă aproximativ 8,5%, grăsimile acoperă 7% și zahărul solubil 1,2%. Ceaiul de trandafir făcut din faza cea mai ridicată, acest ceai are o aromă dulce și puternică. Din punctul de vedere al medicinei tradiționale chineze, trandafirul cu gustul lui puțin amar are un caracter mantenit. Acesta contribuie la circulația sângelui, la întreținerea sănătății fizacului, la calmarea durelor, poate fi un bun sedativ și antidepresiv și îi poate ajuta chiar și pe cei care suferă de insomnie. Astfel, dacă sunteți într-o stare depresivă, o cană de ceai de trandafir va fi foarte benefică. Ceaiul de trandafir poate calma nervul gastrointestinal, contribuind la vindecarea rănilor, la retrarea funcției digestive și la reducerea după masă, pentru că această licoare parfumată ajută atât la digestie, cât și la alungarea gustului uleios în gură. Consumul de ceai de trandafir este favorabil femeilor ușor iritabile sau cu tulburări endocrine. De asemenea, consumul de alimente din trandafir este foarte indicat. Удобрение почвы. Доля сухопутных сортов невелика. Составляет только 2% всех посевных площадей. Между прочим, выращивать рис очень непросто. Крестьяне должны стоять по колено в воде и высаживать рис вручную. О тяжелом труде крестьян написал поэт Лешин Юнекситан. Вот его стих под названием «Возделываем охотой». Мы дышим теми целыми по солнцем полуденным, наш пот течет вслед и капает на землю. кто знает, тот поймет, что в рисовом том блюдце ведь толстый том зернил и пот, и труд, и слезы. Эти стихи учат Китай чистота, чтобы дети поняли, с каким трудом выращивать пшеницу и рис, чтобы дети с трепетом относились и к еде и рису в частности. Рис, растущий на поле, залитым водой, дает урожай в 20 раз больше, чем на сухом поле. Так выращивают и прочие злаки и иные сельскохозяйственные культуры. Открытие технологии затопленного поля – одно из самых больших достижений человечества. И, скорее всего, это изобретение было сделано много тысяч лет назад, как полагают китайские ученые. На затопленном поле вода изолирует ростки от тепла и холода, создает цельную и сбалансированную экосистему, которая обеспечивает себя всем необходимым. Сегодня по площади, на которой выращивается рис, Китай занимает второе место в мире после Индии и третье по его объему. Основные районы рисоводства находятся в бассейне реки Янцзы. У нас множество видов риса, в их числе обычный рис и легкий рис. С рисом связано много интересных традиций. Например, каждый год 5 числа 5 месяца по лунному календарю китайцы отмечают праздник Дуан-У. Он посвящен трагически погибшему поэту Цююаню. В этот день принято готовить специальное блюдо из клетка риса бунты. По вкусу рис если вроде бы одинаков, но у людей, как всегда, бывают разные...
You go head first through that window.
Oh, Colonel, I'm yours. Do what you will with me.
You should have your damn bottom tan encouraging a gorilla like that up here. Who knows what would have happened if you'd been alone?
Oh, I shudder to think.
Oh, that really does it. I'm taking you back with me if I have to drag you by the hair.
Oh, don't worry, darling. I wouldn't dare stay here without you to defend me.
Now, you listen. You lock that door when I go, and don't open it to anyone for any reason whatever. You hear?
Yes, sir.
No, I mean it, Val. Could come back here, and if he does...
You don't have to worry. You won't get him. But where are you going?
Well, I've got a room at the Empire. I booked in while I was there today.
You didn't finish telling me about your brush with the law.
Oh, yes. Well, I went to sleep in some park.
With your girlfriend?
No, I dumped her beforehand.
Meanwhile, the England men's side have announced within the last hour that head coach Chris Silverwood will follow direction of Dr. Ashley Giles in leading his role in good news Australia. It is half-time in Yaoundé and it remains Cameroon nil, Egypt nil at the Olimbe Stadium in the second Africa Cup of Nations semi-final. Who will progress to face Senegal in African football's showpiece event, the half-time final on Sunday. You can follow the conclusion of that right now over on the BBC Sport website.
Today is a BBC Sport production for the BBC World Service. So this is the BBC World Service. Fundamental research has shown that young people are having less sex.
おはようございます。おはようございます。5時になりました。2月4日金曜日、立春の日の毎朝、田中貴信と
久保さんひなです。
5時台にお伝えする主な内容です。この後すぐニュースと気象情報をお伝えします。
16分頃からは毎朝通りです。岐阜県小野市から郷土が誇る日本洋画の父山本放水の話題です。
38分夜からは健康ライフ。今週は肌トラブルの解消法についてのシリーズの再放送をお送りしてきました。最終回の今朝はかゆみ予防の生活がテーマです。
45分頃からは皆さんからのお便りと音楽の時間です。
北京オリンピックが今日開幕します。お便り来てますね。
東京都のマリネコさん、冬のオリンピック開幕するということで
Vaccination coverage is inferior to that on the mainland. Tonga's Prime Minister says his government is looking at how to prioritise food and water for those most in need. Huakava Meiliku Siosi Soboleni has reassured the people that containers full of vital supplies will be received. Says the government is re-examining how to release the drums with donations to people under lockdown. Measures may be implemented to ensure those in urgent need of food and water leave their homes to collect the drums. Through RNZ Pacific, Huakava Meiliku thanked the world for the global response.
Well, it's hard. I mean, there is to deal with the volcano and the tsunami and now with the outbreak of COVID-19. But as someone that we really people, we will bear with disasters before, and our strength is the fact that we stand together.
An Australian epidemiologist is warning New Zealand's Omicron approach is overcautious and may mean the variant is active in the community for longer than it has been elsewhere. Professor Tony Blakely from the Melbourne School of Population and Global Health told Morning Report continued efforts to stamp out the virus could lengthen the overall timeline of the pandemic. He says it's important to contain the virus during the booster rollout as more rapid antigen tests are coming into the country. But if the booster rollout loosens or loses steam over time, he says the rest of the population will have waning immunity when the virus is widely circulating. New research shows Maori, Pacifica and younger women have the highest risk of dying from breast cancer, despite improvements to overall survival rates. The Breast Cancer Foundation data shows Pacifica are 52% more likely to die of breast cancer within 10 years than Pakeha, and Maori are 33% more likely. The Foundation's chief executive, Arlene Arena, says pre-pandemic, Pacifica women had the highest rates of breast cancer screening, but that's since fallen. She says the large backlog in mammograms needs to be cleared to ensure early cancer detection. Vanuatu's Education Ministry says there's no quick fix to addressing a shortage of high schools in the country. This is after reports that there are not enough schools to accommodate Year 11 students for the 2022 academic year, which starts next Monday. Director of Education Services, Samuel Katsuka, told RNZ Pacific there are 2,000 primary schools but only 90 secondary schools. Mr. Katsuka says they've found it challenging to deal with this issue for the past decade.
The alternate option that we have had was taken in the education provider.
Скорее приходи, я тебя жду.
Маша, ты же знаешь, я просто обожаю каву-я. Я давно еще в России слышал, что это очень вкусное блюдо. А когда в прошлый раз приезжал в Китай, попробовал его. Оказалось, не зря о нем столько говорят. Эта утка просто пальчики оближешь.
Бесчетно. Каву-я – это одно из самых известных блюд китайской кухни. Его история насчитывает более 1500 лет. Говорят, что раньше такую утку готовили только для императоров.
Значит, сегодня я буду императором.
Цикл программ о китайском языке и китайской культуре «Здравствуй, Китай». Нихао, Чунго. Слава, посмотри на эту вывеску. Ты знаешь, что на ней написано?
Да, это самый знаменитый в Пекине ресторан, где подают каву-я.
冬奥会的喜悦。值得注意的是，这是历史上首次在中国北京举办的冬奥会，将在中国农历新年春节期间举行，而北京也成为了历史上首座获得了夏季和冬季奥运会举办权的城市。普京表示， 我知道举办方已经为奥运会做好了准备，大规模投资建设体育和交通基础设施，兴建现代化的体育场馆，并为确保外国运动员、教练员和记者在中国逗留期间的安全创造了条件。我相信，如此高质量的奥运会开赛准备将有助于奥运选手充分发挥他们的意志品质，使他们在公平、必须不挠的竞技中展示自己的技能，实现既定目标。普京说，体育是人类文明的一个独特现象，而举办大型体育盛会有助于拉近人与人之间的距离，加深相互了解，促进普遍公认的公平竞赛原则。普京表示，俄罗斯一直并将继续致力于传统的奥林匹克价值观。我们反对将体育政治化，反对将体育作为施压不公平竞争和歧视的工具。
بله آقای خاطری کامل خودشکین و گرفتن ها بپردازیم به این مسئله. پس از صحبت‌های مجاهد ما امروز دیدیم که یک تعداد از خبرنگارا ظاهراً از آینده خوشبین‌تر به نظر می‌رسیدند و یک مقدار تبلیغات صفحات اجتماعی هم صورت گرفت. خب حال مسئولیت رسانه‌هایی که در داخل افغانستان فعالیت دارند و خبرنگارایی که در اونجا گیر مانده‌اند هستند چی است؟ چی موضع‌گیری باید داشته باشند در قبال این مژده‌ها و پیام‌های خوشی که طالبان در خور او رسانه‌ها و مسئولین رسانه‌ها و خبرنگارا میدن؟ خب ما متاسفانه ما از نظر فرهنگی و بیشترهای تاریخی ساختمان تاریخی ما به عنوان یک ملت یک مقدار حافظه تاریخی ما با مشکل مواجه هست که ما ارزش‌ها برای ما زود قابل تعدیل هست و به نوع خاطر هست که ما بسیار به صورت ارتجاعی میتوانیم از یک ایدئولوژی به ایدئولوژی دیگری انتقال داشته باشیم و این خوشبینی‌هایی هم که در داخل به وجود آمده ناشی از دو رقابت بیشتر نمیتونه باشه. اول اینکه یک وحشت در میان
much simpler and clearer, and for simply this: light be light was, dry ground be dry ground was, plants be plants were. I just love this how it again. He was saying his name over and over and over again, and everything that exists came into being through divine power, communicated via the divine name. We recently had a program on another powerful scriptural principle, and that is that the word of Yah itself contains the power to do what it says. If you missed that program, I really urge you to look for it on our website and take the time to listen to it. And it's called Learn How to Access Divine Power. You can listen to it on YouTube too. But basically, Scripture tells us that Yah's creative power is contained literally in His very words. And just hold on a moment, Dave, because I reckon this is an important point. Let's rush past it too quickly. Now, turn to the passage already on screen speaking. Let me just read this for you. It's from Isaiah 55, verses 8 to 11. It says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yahweh. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It, my word, shall not return unto me void, but it, my word, shall accomplish that which I please, and it, my word, shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it." Unquote. This is powerful. It's incredibly powerful concept. It states that the word of Yah itself contains the supernatural divine power to do what the word says. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, I want to just bring all this together. The knowledge that the word of Yah contains the power to do what it says, combined with the divine name, is what makes the most powerful promise in the entire universe. We will be right back.
Anyone who has spent any time at all studying the book of Revelation quickly discovers that the future holds some fascinating, if frightening, events. Revelation 13 talks about a beast, an image for the beast, and a mark of the beast that will be enforced on pain of death. The consequences of receiving the mark of the beast are dire. All who receive it lose out on eternal loss. That is why trying to identify the beast and understanding what the image of the beast is has agitated so many believers. We need to know. It's important. Most Christians are still looking to the future for the formation of the image to the beast. The shocking truth, though, is that the image to the beast has already been formed. The only thing that is left is enforcement. To learn what the image to the beast is, when it was formed, and how this impacts your life, because it does, go to worldlastchance.com and click on the WLC radio icon. Look for the episode entitled Expect the Unexpected. The image to the beast is already here. It's important because what you don't know can hurt you.
Okay, we were just saying that the word of Yah itself contains the power to do what it says. Could you explain for everyone how we take that knowledge then and combine it with Yah's name to claim the promise of his name?
Well, the divine name, as we've seen, is a verb of being. When you know that the word of Yah contains the power to do...
時々雪。夜から雷を伴って強く降ることもありそうです。近畿中部南部、東海は曇り時々晴れ。今夜から明日朝にかけて所により雪。東海は明日日中も雪雲が流れ込み、大雪になる恐れがあります。関東甲信地方、南ほど雲が広がりやすいでしょう。北部山沿いは夜遅くから雪。北陸は昼過ぎから雷を伴って雪や雨が強く降り、明日は雪で大雪になる恐れがあります。新潟県と東北の日本海側、日中は曇り空のところも夕方からは雪で吹雪になったり積雪が一気に増える恐れがあります。東北の太平洋側は晴れ、昼過ぎから曇り、夜ところにより雪、明日朝は広く雪が降りそうです。北海道、日本海側は雪で吹雪になるところもありそうです。太平洋側はだいたい晴れそうです。予想最高気温、那覇18度、鹿児島12度、福岡8度、高知12度、広島9度、松江が7度、大阪名古屋が9度、金沢7度、新潟長野が3度、東京10度、仙台5度、失礼します。東京は9度、仙台が5度、秋田1度、札幌マイナス1度、釧路は0度の予想で、土曜日、日曜日は全国的に寒くなりそうです。気象情報でした。
時刻は5時19分に間もなくなります。マンサ通りです。
今朝は岐阜県江ノ島市内の中村美春さんと電話がつながっています。中村さん、おはようございます。はい、おはようございます。この時間の岐阜県江ノ市、どんな様子でしょうか？はい、まだ暗いです。マイナス3度と寒いです。今朝は昨日の節分の豆まきの豆が残っていて一つ踏んでしまいました。
そうですか。でもね、岐阜も本当に雪にこの週末警戒必要ですからね。中村さん、今朝はどんな話題でしょうか？
はい。明治時代の洋画家、江那市明智町出身の山本放水のお話をします。昔話を洋画として書いた浦島などで知られています。私が小学生の頃に放水の灯火を持つ乙女という絵のレプリカが各家庭に配られました。郷土の偉人をたたえ広めるため明智町が配ったようです。娘さんがろうそくに手をかざし、その明かりが指の間から透けて見えている写真のような絵で、すごい絵だなとびっくりしたのを覚えています。放水は絵の才能はもちろん、爽快な生き方も心がちが素晴らしい人なんです。放水の肖像画も、番組のツイッターに載せています。ちょっとこう、厳しい顔してますが。
If we are in a COVID environment where there's lockdowns, the system could still assist with trade facilitation because already since we've introduced a few agencies, you could see that there's no paper involved. The whole process is conducted online, including payments and transferences are done online. So this is basically the requirements, and then once you do the clearance,
that's also done online. So there won't be any physical movement. They'll be done in contactless environment where goods can still move through our border without any human interactions, physical human interactions.
And are you aware of, we've been told by the Oceania Customs Organization that Vanuatu is a little advanced in this regard. Are you aware of other countries in the region who have sought Vanuatu's expertise or that are looking at implementing, or even if there are other countries that are already having a single window project?
So I am not aware of any country in the region taking up this concept. There might be single window is not a concept that is new. It's been around in customs and in trade for a long time. I guess it comes down to how the government prioritizes needs, especially to do with trade. So in the single window system in Vanuatu, we based it on the customs system called Asikuda. And Asikuda has been used by nearly 100 plus countries worldwide, and in the region you have the countries of PNG, Solomons, Fiji, Vanuatu, Samoa, who are using Asikuda World, and other countries are coming on board thanks to the funding from PESA Plus. But to use Asikuda as your single window system where you build the modules, what we call modules, for the agencies, it's a concept that's not used by many of these 100 countries in the world. I am aware that Vanuatu is only probably 5 of the countries worldwide that is using Asikuda World as the platform to build its single window system. Other countries might use other concepts, whereas they will have to interface systems.
New teams have traditionally been shown to excel in Super Rugby. Major says the closeness of his squad will hold them in good stead. Moana Pacifica played their first warm-up match against the Chiefs at Mount Smart Stadium this Friday night. Speaking to the media on Wednesday, Major said they have had a great build-up and are champing at the bit.
Oh, really excited. Certainly been a real good second and three game week. Had a really good training week. Felt the intensity lift on the field from the boys. It's been a good week so far. Just had a great run there. So 2 days to go. We're ready to roll.
Former Wallaby prop and Test centurion Sekope Kepu will captain Moana Pacifica in the team's debut Super Rugby Pacific season.
They do not know what to do when their child shows signs of sickness. Don't miss the time. Also, politically, we have shared 4 excellent lessons over the last 4 days. Would you summarize these for us, please?
The main theme has been to the parents
un fuerte resultado a través de sus recomendaciones médicas. Gracias, profesor Vergara, por haber estado con nosotros en la tarde de hoy. Y para que con el doctor Alfredo Meñar paso a la segunda media hora de Nacional Noticias.
Descarga gratis la aplicación de Radio Televisión Martí para tu tableta o teléfono móvil. Es la aplicación interactiva que te permite compartir lo que quieras sobre Cuba. Foto, audio, videos y alertas sobre noticias. Descarga y personaliza tu contenido en segundos. Disfrútalo más tarde a tu conveniencia. Y ahorra tiempo y dinero con la función de ancho de banda de baja velocidad. Escucha Radio Martí en vivo las 24 horas del día. Mantente al tanto del mundo sin censura. Con la aplicación de Radio Televisión Martí para tu tableta o teléfono móvil. Android. Radio Martí. El mundo de la información para toda Cuba, las 24 horas del día. Radio Martí. Por los 1180 AM. Por nuestras frecuencias de onda corta. Y a través de radiotelevisiónmartí.com. Radio Martí. Siempre contigo.
para estar al tanto de las noticias dentro de Cuba y los eventos mundiales que afectan el pueblo cubano.
Cambió Cuba por la brutalidad.
By 5 bottles to 1, whereas when we played German music, then German wine outsold French by 2 bottles to 1. So the overall effect averaged out to about 3 1/3 bottles of wine in favour of whichever country's music was playing.
You find it strange, don't you, that even in this sophisticated age, retail stores don't utilise the precise science of music attraction. It's all a bit random what we hear.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily random. It's just done with very different goals. The music is typically used predominantly just to create, in quotation marks, a nice ambience. It's just got to sound right. And so, for example, you'll often find that they will just pick music that the customer demographic would typically listen to anyway, or at least wouldn't object to listening to. I think what's interesting, though, is that there is an awful lot more that businesses certainly can do when you look across, all the psychological evidence on this, which has been, building up now for really, 30 years or more now, about the range of effects that music could actually have in these premises. And I think that's where you start to see, I don't know, you describe it a missed opportunity if you're from the business's marketing department, or you regard it as potentially a little bit creepy if you're from the consumer rights. Okay, so I think you take your pick on that one, but there is certainly is more that they could do, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're performing an entire public service here, giving the game away like this. Can you tell us about a fairly famous, in the field, experiment of yours in a university cafeteria?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we did was over the course of, a good couple of weeks anyway, we played different types of music which were deliberately selected to create a different kind of ambience. So on some days we played classical music, some days we played kind of, top 40 chart pop music, some days we played really stereotypical background music, quite easy listening if you like, and then we had a control condition for those played.
It's like Spanish on the west side of Beijing.
People keep saying that. People keep saying that's the center. I've seen videos and pictures. I just never went out there. It's so far. That's how massive Beijing is. For me to go from where I am to where that is, that's literally like traveling from one city to another city. I guess it's kind of
I guess you're right, yeah.
If I'm just going to see it, it's like a replica of what I can have over here, over there. And it's a massive center, so you might as well just spend your whole day there. But I was like, no, I like my east side of the city a little better.
I lived on the east side. I lived really close to Sanlitun, not in Sanlitun. But I also lived in Shirjingshan, and I lived in the south, and I lived in the west, in a couple different places. I gotta say, Beijing West Side.
Oh my God!
Take that, Sanlitun.
That's horrible.
Sorry, Wuda song is way better than Sanlitun.
We'll leave that up for discussion. But I'm glad my boyfriend didn't hear that. So he's gonna be like, yes, West Side. I'm like, no.
Different kind of West Side.
I know, but he's gonna be all for that.
Well, I don't know. He is a Sanlitun person, right? You both live over there, so maybe he'll be like, wait a minute. He's gonna be like, no. Beijing East America West Side, Beijing East Side. He's gonna have to make a new T-shirt just for that or something.
I love that idea. But I hope he's perfectly good.
Well, then he definitely can't hear the show. Water cube. So it's being called the Ice Cube.
Really?
No, I'm not joking. I read this in an article, like on a Chinese newspaper. Yeah, it's being called, actually not the Ice Cube, it's being called Ice Cube. So my question is, what do you think about the rapper, poet, actor? Like, what does he think about it?
I guess, I don't know.
It kind of looks like an ice cube, actually, more than a water cube.
It does. You can't really cube water, but you can cube ice, so it makes sense. I don't know, but I actually, look, I've met Ice Cube in person, okay?
You met him?
I did, and then whenever
you have done so many cool things. I'm so jealous of your life, Alex.
Oh my God, this is the part that's going to piss you off. When I met him, I didn't have an idea who that person was.
What?
I was working in the university radio station, and I happened to had my show that night, and I was allowed into the studio and helped out on his shoot because his agent called up the studio and they were like, can we promote our movie because we're, Boston University, right next to Fenway Stadium or whatever. And so they did come, and then everybody was freaking out. They're sending messages. They're like, okay, if you don't have a show, you're not going to be allowed in the studio. If you do have a show right after, before that, yes, you're allowed in the studio because Ice Cube is coming. I was telling people, I was like, Ice Cube is coming to the studio. I don't know. They were like, what? And I was like, okay, I don't know who it is, but I went up to him and I filmed his interview and I took a photo with him. I still have that photo. I can send it to you later. But, we have this previous encounter, so if that does happen, and if you want me to talk to Ice Cube, I am more than happy to talk to him again and just, catch up.
Did you get his phone number?
I should have. I failed you, Jason.
I was looking at statistics about participation in China, and apparently in Heilongjiang, which is, I'm not sure which province in the north.
雷を伴って雪や雨が強く降り、明日は広い範囲で雪、大雪に注意警戒が必要です。新潟県と東北の日本海側は日中曇りのところもありますが、夕方から広く雪で吹雪になったり、積雪が一気に増える恐れもあります。東北の太平洋側は晴れ、昼過ぎから曇り、夜はところにより雪、明日の朝は広く雪でしょう。北海道、日本海側は雪で吹雪になるところもありそうです。太平洋側はだいたい晴れそうです。予想最高気温は那覇18度、鹿児島12度、福岡8度、高知12度、広島9度、松江が7度、大阪名古屋が9度、金沢7度、新潟長野が3度、東京9度、仙台5度、秋田が1度、札幌マイナス1度、釧路は0度の予想です。北陸と東海には大雪。
都是一个道理。然后这是一个惊喜啊，大家没有看过，然后拿一盆热水，然后往天上一甩，真的就瞬间就成冰了，喝水成冰，被雾化了，被冷空气瞬间的这种雾化。然后这个是惊喜，第二个就是恐惧，因为太冷了，那个人就是从下车到了现场，下车之后基本上就是人就是木的，就瞬间那个手脚就是开始发麻，您懂吗？就是。
And said thus, there came unto me that I wist not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, for it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went I wist not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof. And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate.
So here again we have a person lying, but it is to preserve innocent life. Rahab knew the king of Jericho would kill the two Israelites, likely after torturing them. She also knew that killing was wrong. So lying to the king, she saved the lives of the two men, as well as the lives of her own family when her family was the only one that was saved at the fall of Jericho.
And more than that, she married an Israelite. Yes, was Boaz, who married Ruth. So Rahab herself was an ancestress to Yahushua. And I like your point that lying is acceptable if it is to preserve innocent life, because that supports the greater principle, thou shalt not kill. But,
yeah, you see, I knew there was going to be a part in there somewhere. I could feel it coming.
Well, what about the commandment that says, thou shalt not lie?
Okay, well that's not quite what it says. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16, let's take a look at that. The 9th commandment. It says, and I quote, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Bearing false witness against someone, telling untruths about them that hurt them or otherwise damage their reputation, that is what the law of Yah forbids. Turn to Proverbs 16. Lying becomes a sin when any hint of selfishness or self-serving enters in. And from Proverbs 16, could you read verses 16, 17 and 19, please?
These 6 things doth Yahweh hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a false witness that spaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. A person bears false witness to hurt the other person and to further his or her own selfish interests. This is an abomination to Yahweh. But if telling a lie preserves innocent life, we are to do that. I guess we all like the black and white of do this, don't do that. It's easier, isn't it? But I can see how that could be lazy.
کشیدم که شما چه فکر میکنید در مورد واقع قواعد بلخط ما درست نیستیم جاها مثل درست هستن فقط امریکا فرصت ادامه موافقت نمیکنه را بیاد
那张免费的照片是当时因为确实说为了留住那批管队员的这种每个人一样的服装之后呢，我们就到了这个中国照片馆去照了一下他们照片。
这什么时候照的呀？这是哪年的照片
时代的
This man-made skiing experience of indoor. You don't get to feel the wind before your face off.
That could be referenced.
That is true.
You and I obviously need to get involved because you got the cold idea and I got the tree idea. So we need...
выражает 20 раз больше, чем на сухом поле. Так выращивают и прочие знаки и имеют управленческий ознак. هكذا تكون صناعة الصدر شاقة وتتطلب الكثير من الصبر، لذلك لا يعمل بها في الغالب إلا من يحبها. هذا الشرف